Good evening, everybody. Let's see.
There are 6 callers on the call.
Good. Welcome. There are 8 of us here. Let me know how well you're able to hear tonight. We think we've discovered that the problem with the phone going in and out and everything was with the big conference call telephone that we have here. There must be some loose wires in that or something, because Adele and I played it at some length this afternoon, and every time I got on the handset, everything was fine, which pretty much let Time Warner and the conference call people out of the loop. So it must be the Polycom phone itself that was messing up. So tonight we're on my speakerphone, and we can hear you through the speakerphone, and hopefully you can hear me. And Adele says that's a lot better than it was over the other phone. And we'll see how this works out.
We can hear you.
Good. So we'll see how this works out.
But some people on the line need to mute their phones because we're getting outside noise.
Well,
We have about 5 people.
so everybody that's *6 mutes your phone. Unfortunately, it also unmutes your phone, but I assume it tells you what you just did. Hopefully when you do that, it tells you that you just muted your phone or unmuted your phone. First, I want to add a few thoughts about mind. Mind has always been a favorite topic of mine, and it seems to be that it's the great puzzle. I had several telephone calls this week and several conversations with people who want to know why this is true and this isn't true and want to figure it out. The only obstacle greater than mind is figuring things out. But some clarity about it certainly will help us have the experience itself. What came to me this week when I was listening to some of the Herb's 88 class, mind is just a function of what is. Okay? And the implication is that what is, therefore, is outside of mind. What is not in mind. Mind is in what is. And time is in mind, and space is in mind. So, what is contains space and time, but what is contains a function.
I'm getting a lot of noise here. I don't know if it's from there or somebody on the line.
I don't know. There's no noise here. So, time and space are within mind, so what is outside of time and space. And you know, here's where we stop figuring it out, because all of our verbs have tenses, and none of the tenses are the no time tense. So we don't have any verbs, we can't even talk about this. But the point is that there is no time. What is does not exist in time. There is no beginning for what is, there is no end to what is. There's no time there at all, here at all. And we talk about what is as creation, which is a funny word, because when we say creation with our tenses, verb tenses, we think about something being created at some time, and before the creation it wasn't, and after the creation it is, until it disappears again. But there's no time, so there was no time when creation happened, so creation didn't happen. Creation is part of what we call creation, is part of what is. Okay? And change requires time. So there's no change in what is. So what is done, complete, whatever those words mean. Do you see the problem now? Because there's no verbs, but it's done, but that doesn't mean that there was a time when it was undone or the time when it began or anything. But the fact is that what is unchanging, it's eternal, it's complete, it's done, it's never going to be any different from what it is now. And it's omnipresent, but it's not omnipresent in mind, it's omnipresent period, and omnipresence is outside of space. There's no space for it to be omnipresent in, there's no place for it to be omnipresent in. What is consciousness. And everything that we think that is also an aspect of consciousness. It's an image in consciousness. It's all consciousness. It's all conscious of itself. It's all one consciousness. There's no possibility of what is not being conscious of anything in what is, because creation is what is, and everything that is what is. So there's so all these terms only make sense inside a mind. Obviously, one of the obstacles that mind produces for us is that while we're in mind, we're limited to input from the five senses and our intellect brain in a time-space world. And so we're looking at the already entire what is. We're looking at aspects of it. Our attention's point is sort of wandering through it, and we think that time is passing and we're making progress. But where we're going, we already are now, and where we came from, we already are now. And there is nowhere we're going because there's no space, and there is nowhere we came from because there's no space. It's all now right here. And while we're wearing these silly bodies and dealing with five senses, we're so limited with the capacity of our brain is so limited that all we can do is look at like an instant of this infinitely dimensioned, infinite what is. Okay? It's just a whole new way of looking at this whole thing. So, yeah. Perhaps that gives you, this will be pertinent if the class goes on when we come to talking about other stuff later on. It's a very interesting fact that there is no change whatever in what is. And that what we're striving for, we already are. What we're trying to accomplish is already accomplished. Never was not accomplished. Herb had a comment. I have some Herb quotes here tonight, but I don't have my glasses on. He says, it's the divine plan and it's already fulfilled. See, even there, there's no such thing as fulfillment. Was there a point at which it was unfulfilled? No, see, all these verbs have change in them. God sees all of eternity now. That one I can go with. What is? It is, but it doesn't see it because there's no eyes. What is all of eternity now. And it's an experiential thing, if anything. Everything is an expression of everything that what is an expression of what is within what is. And there's this game going on that requires some of us to look at it in mind. So mind is an incredible obstacle. So are there any questions or comments or anything you want to say about that before we move on to tonight's obstacle?
It just occurred to me from a grammar standpoint.
Oh, 1 second.
Oh,
We're also going to use the handset as a mic while we share.
it just occurred to me from a grammar standpoint that there isn't any what was, what will be, or what isn't.
Nope.
By that, yeah, I just never thought of it.
We don't have a tense. There's no tense to talk about it.
That's very cool.
Turn it back off when you're done sharing so that we don't hear it clicking. That gray button there above the numbers. We'll pass the telephone around. Leave it out there so that anybody that wants to...
Which one?
This one. We can use the telephone for a mic tonight, and it's probably better than trying to pick it up over the Polycom mics. So tonight's obstacle is my favorite obstacle, thinking. Don't know where to start. Thinking is the source of all problems, all pain, at least emotional pain, all stress, all confusion, all inadequacies, all adequacies, all scripts, if we don't think, if we actually have any period of time without thinking, and you can play with it during this little talk tonight, if you can not think for even 5 seconds, then what is. And then you're out of space-time and you're in this extended consciousness. When you're not thinking, you can't label anything. So if you're not thinking, nobody's tall, nobody's short, nobody's fat, nobody's skinny, nobody's smart, nobody's stupid, nobody's black, nobody's white, nobody's sick, nobody's well, nobody's a thief, nobody's a saint. None of these things are out there. All of these things are thoughts we have about this picture that we're seeing through our eyeballs. And what that picture is made up of entirely is consciousness, is spirit. It's an image in consciousness. And there is absolutely no difference between the image of that table lamp over there in the corner and the image of Adele sitting right next to it. There's absolutely no difference in those two images. They're both just images in consciousness, made out of consciousness. And it's labeling them that brings in all of the dualities and everything that goes with it. It's just this human need to label. We have to label and characterize. We have to label and we have to characterize, or we wouldn't be able to think about it or talk about it. Okay? If you don't think, you can't have a problem. Can't possibly have a problem. Because a problem is, you think something is different than it should be. And if you didn't think anything was different than it should be, there couldn't be any problems. Problems are purely a labeling. One of my favorite acorns is the heaviest burden a man can bear is knowing how things ought to be. If you don't know how things should be, then you can just watch it unfold without any judgments or comments about it. You don't have to think about it. You can watch it unfold. But if you know how things should be, then you can measure the difference between how things appear to be and how they should be. And as Osho said to us one day at lecture, he said, God's will is what is, my will is what I want to be, and the difference is pain. And the extent of the pain is how wide apart the what is from what I want to be, and how intensely I want it to be and the way I want it to be. So, in that sense, if you're not thinking, there can't be any pain. I was thinking that if when I said there can't be any problems if you're not thinking, the typical human response is, yeah, okay, so I don't label it and I don't describe the problem, but it's still there, the earthquake is still there or whatever, and it'll still wipe me out. Okay? And then, so what do I do about that? I mean, isn't not thinking about my problem just sticking my head in the sand? Am I not just being an ostrich? What do I do about making the problem go away? And what Herb was pointing out in this tape I was listening to is that when I'm not thinking, I'm in transcendental consciousness. And when I'm attaining transcendental consciousness, I'm deepening and deepening into transcendental consciousness. And as I deepen and deepen into transcendental consciousness, I break the hypnosis. And when I break the hypnosis, that thing which I thought was a problem disappears, because that is not an accurate picturing, an accurate imaging of reality. So, not only does my thinking allow me to identify the problem, but my thinking is causing the problem, is preventing me from getting to the solution of the problem, which is to stop thinking and rise above the problem and see that it's not there. Everybody says that you can't solve a problem at the level of a problem. And that means that you can't solve a problem by thinking. Yes? Grab the phone.
Oh.
No, not that. The phone.
Oh,
That's a great button.
Joe Michael, if you're dreaming there's an earthquake, and then you wake up, there's no earthquake.
That's right. That's the whole point. Dreams are so good. The fact that we have dreams, it really shows us everything. It gives us a real clear look at omnipresence. I am omnipresent in my dream. I can see everything that's in my dream. I'm conscious of everything that's in my dream. Because if I'm not conscious of it, it isn't in my dream. That's what I was saying earlier about what is. What is, it's conscious of everything that, what is its creation. Whatever what is not conscious of is not, period, because it's not in consciousness. So dreams are really good as far as showing us what omnipresence means and what problems are and false identification, because we so often have dreams and identify with the caricature of ourselves that's in the dream. And if you ask that person in the dream, if I'm having a dream, and in the dream Lee is in the dream, and I'm dreaming that I'm Lee, and somebody asks me, "Who are you?" I'd say, "I'm Lee," okay? And I'd be talking about that creature in the dream, and I would be thinking that I was that person in the dream, that image in the dream, okay? Now that's what's happening here. If I don't think, there's no little I. The only time there's an I, the only time I have a personal I is when I am thinking I. I, Robert would say. If I'm not thinking I, there's not an I. If I'm not thinking Lee, there's not a Lee. Lee, you can think Lee, in which case you have a Lee, but that doesn't mean that I do. This personal sense of I is just a thought. And it comes and goes with that thought. When I'm thinking I, there's an I. When I'm not thinking I, there's not an I. Like everything else. If I have a sore leg, when I'm thinking about my sore leg, it's sore. And when I'm off doing something else, my leg isn't sore. It's only sore when I'm thinking about it. If I'm off somewhere out doing something else and get distracted, I can't say my leg is sore. When I come back to it and check to see if it's still sore, then it's still sore. But while I'm off being distracted, my leg's not sore. There's nobody anywhere in the entire universe experiencing soreness when I'm off distracted. I have to think about pain to have pain. I have to think about Lee to have a Lee. I have to think about little I to have a little I. This is what Robert means when he talks about the I thought. And this is also what Robert means when he talks about the fact that the entire universe is attached to the I thought. Did you have?
Yeah. This is Jay. I've had a lot of over the years, but my defining the little I and J and the like has been just kind of an ongoing. Sometimes I'm good with it, sometimes I'm. Anyway, what happened this past week? It's actually happened over a couple weeks. Was instead of this idea of I had this image that since I was a little boy, there was this narrator that's been explaining my experience in this life to me. And that voice has always sounded the same. It never sounded younger or older, or it always had the same quality to it, which gave me a sense of separation I've never had before. And then, so I was able to see that maybe this is just a movie, and I'm just busy describing all these different things to whatever it is that's looking out. And then at the other part, just down below, just at the top of my spine, there's something that's always there, that's not linked into this narrator. And when I'm when I'm at that, which is the not thinking part, it's an experiential, or I don't know what it is, but anyway, that for the first time this week, I came to feel that that's the Christ. That I was always looking for the Christ to be some understanding or something outside of myself that I'd raise up to and figure out, and I'd have, that it would come through this, whatever this is up here, that somehow the narrator would be involved in it. But it's when the narrator's not involved, then the Christ is present. So that's what, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. When I'm to be experiencing Christ, I have to be out of mind, out of my mind. Kicker, isn't it? The only way you're ever going to find God is to be out of your mind. There's a truth. There's a truism. And, I had a similar thing when I probably was 7. I was climbing out on a branch on a tree, and the branch was apparently rotten, and it fell and hit the ground, and it knocked the wind out of me. And I'd never had that experience before, unable to inhale. And I remember so clearly laying there. I mean, that was a shocking moment, not a traumatic moment, but a shocking moment. And I remember very clearly who I was then, okay? And I mean, I had a sense of who I was. And I've been able to compare that I at various points all through my life. And the I who was conscious of the 7-year-old gasping for breath, and the I who is conscious of this talk going on here now, are absolutely identical. No difference, no sense of age, no sense of change. It's just no characteristics, no attributes, no nothing about it. The consciousness was not 6 or 7.
Right.
The little boy was. Sure wish I could find that tree. It was probably 4 feet,
Yeah.
I would say 12, but it was probably 4 feet. Did you have something?
Yeah. This is Jerry. I have difficulty with the earthquake dream, and I have a different scenario which is causing me anxiety. I'm meditating, and I am not thinking, and the rest of my family feels an earthquake. If I'm deep enough not to experience the earthquake, they may die. And at some point, I will notice that. This is part of my feeling bad about going into meditation and thinking that I'm burying my head in the sand. It's an extension of that. I'm giving myself more argument for it. React? Can you reply to that?
Sure. Joel's favorite statement. No individual has ever been sick or died since the beginning of time. Let me just finish for a second, and then I'll come to you. You're concerned that a picture, an image, which is not who that person is, will die, which is not something anybody can do. That person that you're afraid will die is already the eternal individualization of what is. Already, at this moment, is the eternal individualization of what is. And I'm sorry about what you see, but that's not happening. Plus, if you're really high in meditation, the odds are exceptionally good that the hypnosis will be broken there, and the earthquake might well wipe out the entire neighborhood and your house remain standing. The best thing you could do for your family in an earthquake, practically speaking, the best thing you could do for your family during an earthquake is to attain a state of higher consciousness. Because the earthquake itself is part of the hypnosis, and a state of higher consciousness will break the hypnosis, just like Joel used to break tidal waves and hurricanes. They're not real. Who was on the phone?
Lee, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to tell you that the phone was going in and out. And sometimes I don't know if you're holding the phone in your hand and it's very clear, otherwise, when somebody's voice goes low, then there's like big periods of, I'm not getting anything on this hand. So I don't know that you can do anything about it, but I noticed when you had the phone in your hand, you were talking, it's much clearer.
I haven't had the phone in my hand this entire class.
There was some point where you were shifting. I thought you said you put the headset on or something like that.
No, I'm just sitting here in front of my speakerphone and we're passing the wireless receiver around to the people in the room who are talking.
Okay.
Am I sometimes clear and sometimes going in and out?
Yeah, sometimes clear and then it's like a cell phone that breaks up and everything's gone and then you're back. So anyway, just giving you some
Yeah,
feedback.
thank you. Is anybody else experiencing that? Dulcie, am I constant to you or am I breaking up? Star 3, 6. Maybe Dulcie's not there. I thought she was.
Hi, it's Dulcie. Yeah, you're going in and out, but not anywhere near as bad as last week.
Okay, so
Much better, but it is fading in and out, and I'm missing words, but not like as it was.
okay, so it's a combination of things. It's not just the Polycom because that's clearly not here. We're not using it. We're just using my local telephone. All right, so we haven't.
Oh, hi, Lee. It's Lee from Toronto.
Hi, Lee.
Just undid my mute. Yeah, I'm experiencing the same, and just trying to overlook it.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have to keep looking. So I'll take another step. We'll replace the Polycom and we'll replace the phone line. We'll keep at it. Okay, thanks for the feedback.
This is Jay again. Another thing that's happened from this shift that I've had is that for the first time I've experienced omnipresence as something other than a mental construct. Mm-hmm. Because I know that it's always, or whatever.
Yeah. So, I think that's enough about thinking. What else? I had a couple more
Just
quotes.
a question. Can I ask
Oh,
a
yes.
question? Okay.
Please,
Microphone.
Mike, pass her the mic. Give her the mic.
Press the gray button.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Jessie.
Good.
I have a question about thinking.
You're good at it.
So when you were saying that, when there's no thinking is when you're in, the what is Christ, whatever you want to call it. But what, I experience when there's thinking and, when I'm in spiritual adult, when there's thinking and I just know it's ridiculous, it's not. So, the thinking sometimes doesn't cause me to suffer and it's just kind of like there.
Yeah, thinking doesn't always cause you to suffer. I didn't make that claim, but it never accomplishes anything. Now that's the interesting thing, is that we all feel that our lives would just go to hell if we didn't think. And even that's not true. It's never necessary to think. The body will do what it came here to do, whether you think in advance prior to that or not. And there are some examples where you can sort of get the sense of this. Have you ever had a situation where you couldn't decide whether to do A or B, and you talked about A and of course immediately wanted to do B, and then you talked about B and immediately wanted to do A, and you went back and forth, and you finally reached a decision, by God, I am going to do B. Okay, and then you went up to the situation and did C or did A. After spending 2 weeks researching the thing, then you walk up to the situation and find yourself doing something else other than what you decided, okay? That's an interesting case where you can see that your thinking did not contribute. There's a case where you can really see that your thinking did not contribute to what you did. The other case that I used to play with is I used to lay in bed in the morning, and when I think it was time to get up, then I would stay in bed. And what I would do is not decide to get up. Okay? I would decide I'm not going to reach the decision to get up. And so I would sit there and just refuse to decide to get up. And then I would discover myself in the bathroom brushing my teeth. What would happen is I would think about something else, and the body would get up and go brush its teeth. Okay? So you don't even have to think about getting up and getting dressed and taking your shower and stuff like that. Thinking is absolutely superfluous and absolutely guaranteed to hold you in human consciousness, because thinking can't take place now, because thinking takes time. And so thinking means that you're in mind, which is human. So you can't possibly be in higher consciousness and think. That's why people always talk about getting into the silence, Can you hold the peace now? They say, you know. So let's just, for this week, let's don't think. Don't you think that's a good idea? Oops. Strike one.
Don't think I won't get funk.
We're going to see if there's another quote here or something. Yeah. Regarding problems, Herb says, face the problem, not with the human mind, but with the Christ mind. Look at it, refuse to accept it at its face value, be still, and wait, with the knowledge that this problem only appears to my human mind. The problem is simply not there to the Christ mind. Christ never healed anybody, he broke hypnotism. Unsee your problem. Invite Christ in to see the reality of the problem. Every problem is hypnosis. With the Christ mind, you would see spirit. Okay? So that's the point of not thinking, getting silent. He said, you should allow yourself the luxury of letting go of all human thoughts and all human hope and all human ambitions, in the knowledge that the living word of you is eternity now, that the living word of you in eternity now has already achieved everything you could possibly hope for. He's talking about the fact that the real you is already outside of time complete, since it can't not be, because there's no progress in time, there's no progression in time. This whole spiritual gymnasium is entirely in your mind. You're the mind. And Joel says, it's impossible to leave heaven. All you can have is the false belief that you have left heaven. By heaven, he means, of course, God consciousness. It's impossible to leave transcendental consciousness. All you can do is believe that you have left it. And experience your belief in mind. This is the function of mind. This is what mind does. It allows you to experience your beliefs. You see how script works? How you believe in script? Mind allows you to experience your belief. And if it requires dragging people in to read your script for you, it's more than happy to do that, you know. Mind manufactures what you believe. Way back to the front of Pointing to the Moon. Believing is seeing. Absolutely. Believing is seeing. I think we'll start meditating again for a few minutes, but if you have anything else, please speak right up. Jump in. Holler. My eyes will be closed, so I can't see hands here or out in the telephone land.
Lee?
Yes.
Hi, it's Jessica again.
Hi, Jess.
Could you tell me, you were just started reading from something Herb was saying. Could you tell me where I could access that or look at
Now
that?
that was, I wrote it.
I realized you're reading it and I can go back to the class and listen to the tape.
Yeah, I wrote it down from the San Diego Transition Seminar, Tape 2. 1988 San Diego Transition Seminar, Tape 2.
Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh. The homework is my favorite flashcard. This does not require my thinking to be applied to everything, but especially let's address the practical, useful stuff. If you have a problem, observe that what you have is a disagreement about the way things are. If you have a problem, recognize that what's really going on here is you think things should be different than they appear to be. Okay? And then take it to stress and see how your stress is caused by thinking. Thinking this should be done on a particular deadline, or thinking, you can look at the 2 or 3 things that are driving your life, namely problems and stress and whatever emotional thing they're driving you, and observe the fact that they couldn't be there if you weren't thinking at that moment. If you weren't thinking at that moment, you'd be just blissfully going through your day doing whatever it is you're going to do, and you just wouldn't be thinking about it and worrying about it and stressing about it. I have a t-shirt that says worry is not preparation.
Lee?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Jim.
Hi, Jim.
I had an experience a couple of weeks ago that I think ties in with what we're talking about, but I'm reluctant to talk about it because I'm not sure that I can is around it that I am then thinking about. And I'm just using this as an example, but if I think, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? And I think, I don't have to think about that right now. There are all these other things I will have to go to the store to get. Is there enough gas in the car? Am I dressed to go out in public? All these other things that it was quite a moment of clarity for me that it's not just the one thing, that there are all these peripheral things. That,
No, it's an addiction to thinking.
I'm sorry?
It's an addiction to thinking.
Yes.
Your mind doesn't want to be still. When you arrive at the point where you truly don't give a shit about anything and where it's truly clear that there's absolutely nothing worth thinking about, the mind nonetheless continues to think. Just chatters on about this and that and the other thing.
But in that moment, I had just a second of not thinking.
Uh-huh.
Well, I had the experience. And so that's it. I just want to throw that out.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Don't make the error of thinking that you're thinking. Isn't this language wonderful? Go through the logic of it. If there's no you, how could it be you that's thinking? If this image, this personal I, if this personal I is nothing but the I thought, and this personal sense of Lee is nothing but the thinking that there's a personal Lee, then who's thinking? It's not this personal I, that's the thought. It's not Lee, that's the thought. Who's thinking?
I've kind of got that down, that this noise that goes on in my head is not me.
Right. Right. The Eastern people, the Chinese, are wise enough to refer to it as the monkeys chattering in the trees, an expression I dearly love. And that's about right.
Still annoying as hell, but
To whom? Oops.
Oh, Lee?
Yes.
Lee calling from Toronto.
Hi, Lee.
Hi. I'm rereading a book, Gangaji,
Uh-huh.
Diamond in Your Pocket.
Uh-huh.
And she's very good. She talks about the
feels. If the one who's thinking about what to do next is not having any effect on what you do next. It's just a narration that's going on while you're going through the day. And it's just more peaceful to go through it without talking about it. But that's a really good practice you're talking about, and keep it up.
Good, thanks.
Yeah. Just see what unfolds. The blissful moments are when I walk into I do every day get up and wonder what's going to happen, but where every situation I walk into, every place I go, if I have any thought at all, it's one of wondering what's going to happen, of curiosity. Never a plan about what should happen or what I'm going to do or anything like that. That's the center of peace. Just watching it unfold. With Robert at the back of my head saying it, reminding me that everything's unfolding exactly as it should. And just watching it unfold exactly as it should is a very peaceful place to sit in this body from. He certainly could have. Anybody that was clear could say that. Okay, so remember, we're not trying to overcome this obstacle this week. What we're trying to do is see it clearly, to recognize it for what it is, and get a sense of the scope of the obstacle, or a beginning of a sense of the scope of this obstacle. That's what this game is all about, is seeing these obstacles and recognizing them for what they are, because it also moves us forward. If we get to the point where we can see clearly that everything that's in mind is an image in mind, that takes a lot of the pressure off and backs us away quite a bit. And if we can get to the point now where we observe that our thinking is causing our suffering, that's a real clear thing to say. It won't result in your stopping the thinking, but it'll sure take a lot of the pressure off and make it a lot less real and remove a lot of the hypnosis. Okay, cool. Thank you. Love you all. See you next week, I hope.